Welcome to the HVAC ADHD Vodcast, the only show where duct design meets dopamine and where energy efficiency and executive dysfunction battle it out for airtime. The HVAC Vodcast isn't just about better systems, it's about better people, better thinking, and a little grace for those of us who zig when the spec sheet says zag. This week's episode is brought to you by NOSO. Hey everybody, welcome back to the HVAC ADHD Vodcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Begley. And today I'm catching up with a good friend and one of the OGs of home performance and HVAC, Rob Minnick. Rob's story goes way back. He grew up in his family's HVAC business, started in a sheet metal shop at 14, and eventually helped lead the company through one of the biggest transformations you can make, baking home performance into the very core of the business model. We're going to talk about what that culture shift looks like, the challenges of retraining techs and customer service reps, why he swears by operation manuals and weekly meetings, and how training at NCI and tools like MeasureQuick are helping today's techs deliver comfort and efficiency the right way. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to align HVAC with home performance and make it stick, this is the episode you don't want to miss. As always, a big thanks to our sponsors NOSO Labs and Santa Fe Dehumidifiers for supporting the show. Welcome to the HVAC ADHD Vodcast. I'm here with Rob Minnick, an old friend of mine. We go back a pretty long way. Rob is probably the second pure HVAC contractor that I was ever aware of to lean fully into home performance, brought it into his business, made it a part of what he does. Their day-to-day, he has a lot of great insights about home performance and HVAC, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to talk to him about it today. Rob, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your history, your family business history, and how you actually came into home performance from the HVAC side of things?
Sure. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me, Jeremy. Yeah, so my grandfather started our family business back in 1954 and grew the company. We had roughly 700 employees. We were doing a lot of new construction work. And as a kid, I would go down there during the summer and hang out around the shop and, run around and do miscellaneous things. And when I finally got to an age to where I could work, my father asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I wanted to start at the bottom because one day I will own this company and I want to know how it operates. And I don't want to just be put in a corner office because I'm the owner's son, because at that time my father bought it from his father. 1980. So I started in the sheet metal shop, and first day out of school for summer, my dad drops me off, tells me to go in and see the manager. He's waiting for me. So I go in, report to him. He said, well, where's your flannel shirt? I said, flannel shirt? It's freaking 90-something degrees outside. Why would I need a flannel shirt? He goes, well, here, take mine and go back in that room. There's a gentleman back there that's going to guide you and teach you, where to start. And in that room was insulating ductwork, and that's why I needed a flannel shirt. So I was okay with it. I was 14 years old, and I was hanging out with 30-something people in the sheet metal shop, and they were ranges from 18 years old to 40 years old. And they would be talking about stories of running the roads and going to parties and chasing women and having a good time. So at 14 years old, hearing all this was a lot of fun to me, and I was getting paid at the same time. So it was great. So I progressed in the sheet metal shop from insulating ductwork to becoming the foreman of the sheet metal shop after 4 years of being in there. And then it got to a point that I wanted to, move on to the next piece of the puzzle and wanted to know how did they come up with a list of fittings and so forth for jobs. And they put me out with a field supervisor, and we went to the job, and we're in a new house being built, and he would just walk around and point in each room and say, well, this room needs a 6-inch, and this room needs a 4-inch, and this needs 2 7s, and I'm like, what are you basing that on? Because you have no plans, you have no paperwork, you're just walking around pointing and making notes. And I just thought it was absurd and just very odd and weird. And so then I went to his manager and asked, what is it that I can do or go to any kind of training of how this is done the right way? And he was like, well, I would just go look at ACA and see what kind of training they have. And so then I found the class, it was for a whole week. And the instructor was Hank Rakowski. And so the whole week was, going manual J, manual S, manual D, manual, all the manuals for the whole week. And it was 8 hours a day from Monday through Friday. And at the end of the day on Friday, he comes around and hands out the exam, 775 questions. And one of the attendees says, we're supposed to finish this today. It's 4 o'clock on a Friday. And Hank's like, no, take the test home. You got all the books. I've been training you all week. And, write down your answers. And whenever you finish, just email them to me and I'll grade it and send it back to you and let you know if you passed or not. And it took me about 2.5 months to finish the exam and sent it in and passed. And I'm like, all right, where's my certificate? He's like, well, you have to ask ACA about that. And of course, to this day, I've asked Wes Davis at ACA, where's my certificate? This was probably, freaking 40 years ago.
Wes Davis, we need to get him his certificate. We're going to bug him now. That's going to be my new mission, to get you your certificate. The BS, Wes.
Yeah, so that it was a great learning curve and, really got me going on it, and then started doing load calculations and, doing all the right stuff and designing manual D and so forth, and really enjoyed it. And then all of a sudden, when I was out doing all this design work, again, like I said, we did a lot of developments, new developments. And one development, I get a call from the service department. They're like, hey, they're getting some complaints from customers out at their home that, okay, of course, I'm sure everyone have heard this before. The top floor feels like a sauna and the basement feels like a meat locker. And you need to come out here and see what's going on with the HVAC system, because we had 2 systems in the house, of course, one on the top floor and one in the basement for the basement first floor. And so I went out there, took all static pressures, checked the refrigerant charge, checked everything out. Everything was operating correctly, delivering the right airflow, checked all the registers and measured all the airflow readings, and everything was per what was on our plans. Though I'm standing there sweating, customer standing next to me on the second floor sweating, and she's like, so you're saying everything's okay, but you're sweating, I'm sweating, so what's going on here? I said, something else is happening in this house that I have no idea what it is, though I'm going to have to dig into this and find out what's causing this. And just put it out there. And 2 weeks later, I get a postcard from Comfort Institute, targeting HVAC contractors to come see their home performance seminars for 8 hours. It was nearby. I was at a hotel next to BWI Airport in Maryland. So I went to it, walked in the room, and they got a video playing, and they got a blower door running, and they got the smoke stick and going around to, the recessed can lights and all the different areas that we all know that they go to.
They called it the Big Show.
Yes.
Remember that? They used to teach the Big Show.
So I'm in there, I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. I guarantee you that's the problem at that house. And so, it was supposed to be there for 8 hours. I'm like, I don't need to be here. I'm sold. I walked out of that room. I was probably there an hour. I walked out to, where we checked in. I said, when can I start training?
And what year was this, you think?
It was early 2000, maybe 1999 or something, or 2000, 2001, somewhere between there. And so they said they can come out next week. I said, fantastic. They came out next week. They said, well, you need a customer's home. I said, well, I got many customer homes we can go to, but let's just go to the one because it's probably going to be the same thing at all the houses. And the other main thing that I did was contacted the builder and said they need to be there when we come there to run this test, because we have a feeling that there's something going on in the way the house was built. And they were like,
So is a new, like, just under warranty
yeah,
house or something like
yes.
that?
I mean, we're talking like people just moved in, probably been there for 2 or 3 months at the most. And of course, it was right in the middle of summer. And so luckily the builder, kind of pushed back, like, I don't need to be there, and the house is built great, and blah, 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 as we always hear, right? Well, luckily he came.
I hear that, and then you get houses that are certified and they say the same thing and they're just as bad as the other houses that are having these problems too. Like, they all have the same problems. I don't care what umbrella they got built under. It's all the same basic
You're
problems.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So, the trainer from Comfort Institute came out, brought all the tools because, I signed up and paid, and, they dumped all kinds of tools on us, which was great. I mean, we had everything we needed plus. So we go out there, we run start the blower door, course start, halfway mark, and then start ramping it up. And the homeowner said, where's all that air coming from? It's like, great question. Let's go find out. So there was, recessed can lights, the typical roof hatch, rim and band joist down the basement. And it was just a wind tunnel. And told the builder's like, well, you need to seal up all this stuff. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean seal it up? So end up doing, there was like probably a few hundred houses that were in this development that have all that work done. And that's when that's where I learned home performance, and that's where I drank the Kool-Aid, and then heard about BPI, and went and got every certification of BPI, and then looked into ResNet and all that. And so that I knew that at that point this, it was going to help our business, because again, we're HVAC contractors are getting the blame, and we didn't build the house. So again, we still have to make sure that things are operating correctly. And that's when I was just all bought in and just constantly did home performance with our HVAC.
So when I met you in, like, I think 2013 or something like that is when we met, when we were doing the ACA building performance board and all that stuff. You were already had it was baked into your business model by then. But I remember even back then you were telling me, like, it was a big culture change and it was a big lift to get everybody on board. Talk about that, like that changeover time period a little bit right there. Like, this is because even to this day, like, there's HVAC 2.0, there's all these different little factions of what would be home performance and HVAC, but I still don't think people understand what it takes to actually do that from the inside out. Because you guys, you were one of the few companies drew the line in the sand and said, this is the way we're going to do business.
Yes, because you're getting all these callbacks that are going to cost all this money, and just going in there and making sure that it's right. And it was challenging, like you said, because a lot of technicians are like, why do I need to be climbing around in the attic and doing all this work? We're supposed to be working on the HVAC system. I'm like, well, let's just say this is part of it. This is part of the HVAC system, because the HVAC system is, fighting against all these leaks and trying to heat and cool the home, and it can't keep up because of all the air leaks and comfort issues and health issues and concerns that homeowners would have. And so it would stop all the callbacks. Service guys are getting frustrated because they're getting these calls, and they can't figure out what it is until I was trained them, of course, of what to look for. And it was, it's like, if you don't want to do this and you want to just sit there and put in systems and walk out the door and say everything's fine, that's great, because there's 100 of other HVAC contractors you can go work for. Just not going, because here, this is what we do. This is part of it. And if, it's the builder's fault or what have you, So we're the ones that are going to have to fix this because we're the ones getting the complaints.
So one of the things I hear a lot is the customer service representatives, they have to be retrained how they answer the incoming calls because it's mostly, just we'll send a $79 service tech out to your house and look at your problem, and so like home performance wise, you're training your customer service reps to, recognize those cues, those home performance cues and direct them the right way. Did you find that to be a little bit of a challenge at first, getting the upfront people to understand what you were trying to do in the back of the house, so to speak?
You're exactly right. And that was a challenge, for internally and for the customers because the customers had no idea of what home performance is and no idea that the problems are coming from all these different areas. And until we can go out there and perform the audit and educate them before we just start running blower doors and so forth, we don't want to just walk in there and start doing that. We need to sit down with them and let them know and be there and walk around with us and be able to feel where the air is coming from.
One of the cool things about Comfort Institute, thinking back to them, is they had those scripts. Remember that they would tell you to have your customer service representative, like, if they ask about dust, here's the thing you should say about dust, how it comes from duct leakage and all that. If they ask about energy bills, here's a little script for energy bills that guides them back into the home performance conversation. And I always thought that those were pretty cool to be able to train the front of the house on, as far as like your customer service representatives go, because then your customer is at least thinking about that stuff when your guys get out there and start talking about them. It's not the first time that they've heard it. So it's not as foreign, something that's in their brain a little bit at that point in time.
No, you're exactly right. And, that was part of what we used. We would use part of their scripts and then see how we could enhance it in any way because, again, it's still a challenge, especially on a telephone. It was much easier when you're in person talking with them when you get there at the kitchen table or what have you. Though, again, yeah, those were very helpful.
Was there certain business that you had to walk away from where you're like, well, you guys just want me to switch out the box. We're not doing it that way. Or did you find a way to sort of meet them in the middle with that stuff?
I would say both because, if they didn't want to do any of that, I'd always walked away. Even if I wasn't involved, because again, after a while, I wasn't the one going out there all the time. I was training, right, internally and having people that were trained and certified to be able to go out and do it, and they would go out and do it and so forth. And at times they would call me and be like, they don't believe in this. They just think that we're trying to, sell them something that they don't need, and we're just trying to, fatten our wallet and just trying to sell something that the customer has no understanding what it is and just wants X done or Y done, which we knew that wouldn't solve the problem. And so it was just best to depart and move on because as you're aware, and most people are aware that, when the customer doesn't believe in something and just wants this done and they're going to tell you what to do, that it's not going to work out well.
Yeah, you can't unknow the stuff. So when you get there and you have a customer that you're talking to and they got XYZ problem, and if you put a system in, it's still going to be XYZ problem. You don't, as a business owner, you don't want to own that problem the same way that you would be willing to take it on just to get the box changed anymore. Once you know what you're looking at.
Exactly right.
So tell me from the time that like we went through the whole boom, you and I were got to know each other pretty good during the Aura Fund days when there was a lot of money to do the home performance and stuff like that. Then it sort of dwindled away and it was state driven and I kind of lost track of like your business from then up until now. So paint that picture for me, because I know you're with NCI now and they're a great group of guys and they're both of us highly value their training. So just tell me a little bit about that journey and what you were doing then and where you're at now.
Well, again, running a family business, and I had two younger brothers, so there's three of us, and we bought the company from our father in 2012.
That's right after I met you, or right before I met you, actually.
Yeah, so 2012 is when we bought our father out, and, I became the one that was in charge, and then, one brother, ran the install department, and the other brother ran the service department. though they were both trained in, when we did the whole Comfort Institute and so forth, so they knew about all the home performance, so they would be able to help their departments. And I would only have to get involved if they were out somewhere and someone had some questions. They would contact me if they couldn't get a hold of one of my brothers.
Just to clarify for people out there, because we're saying two acronyms that are real similar here. Comfort Institute and National Comfort Institute are two very good HVAC training organizations for different reasons. The Comfort Institute focused highly on in-home home performance from the pure home performance business model, and National Comfort Institute also had a performance business model, but it was more based around the performance of the HVAC system. And they also have a very robust test and balance training section as well that they sort of integrate with a lot of their classes. So two different organizations. CI got bought out by AeroSeal, and Brandon Reed, who was the CEO of AeroSeal or of CI, now works for AeroSeal. And NCI is still alive and kicking and one of the best organizations out there. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, but we kept saying those two. I know people are going to get confused with them.
No, that was great. No, thank you for clarifying that for everyone.
This week's episode is brought to you by NoSo. Ready to 10x your technicians? Field service teams are missing out on revenue. NoSo's AI ensures you capture every opportunity and finish every job with zero paperwork. From diagnosing tricky issues on site to automatically writing up job reports, their AI assistant, NoSo, supports your technicians at every step. To learn more about NoSo, click the link in our show notes or head to their website at noso.so.
About 2015, my younger brother came to me and my other brother and says, I'm tired of dealing with employees, so we should just let them all go and just let it be us three.
Man, big decision there.
And I'm like, that's great that you have that thought. Though that's not my plan, because my plan was always wanting to help others that wanted to get in the trade and learn. And that's why we built an in-house training center. We had 3 training centers. So we had, the learning part of the training center, books and so forth, and go through slideshows or what have you. And then we had equipment, all the different kinds of equipment that can be installed down in our training room, to where we could take them down there and show them, we could make a system fail, and then they would have to do a service on it and try to figure out why is it failing and how to fix it and how to install them correctly. And then we also had a home performance building, which was actually our company's first office. Ended up being our home performance house. And we had 2 of them. They were just side by side.
And I know you guys opened that up to everybody in the country back then too. You're like, if you want to come up and check out what we're doing and see how we do home performance, you're welcome to come up. You didn't care who they were. And that was cool. I never made it up there, but I know a few people that did, and they were blown away by the experience.
Yes. And it was always fun because, the building was really old. And so, we would, play a game like, what do you think the blower door number is going to come out to be in, and how much leakage is happening. And people are like, oh, well, it's probably just going to be not much because it's so small. And it wasn't. It was very, very leaky.
When you try to blow a door, a screen porch, amazing things happen.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So I told my younger brother, I'm like, well, you got 2 choices. You can stay and keep moving forward, or move on and do your own thing. And that's what he did in 2015. He left. So I bought him out. And so then it was just me and my other brother. And then when COVID came, he was involved with sales, pretty much overseeing sales, because I already brought someone else in that was overseeing the service department and so forth, and install. So he was out overseeing sales and so forth. And of course, trying to go do sales during COVID was challenging, real challenging, because many people didn't have, the funds because they weren't working.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not having fun anymore. This ain't working out. And so I'm going to move on to something else. I said, okay, I'll buy you out, and I wish you the best. And so that was, all during COVID. And so I've already brought people in, so everything was already going well anyways. So when he departed, we just kept moving forward. And then, of course, once kind of COVID, a year after COVID was happening and so forth, employees, morale just started really dropping. They would just start making their own time when they came in. Yeah, it's kind of like, where are you at? You're supposed to be here. We had operation manuals for every position in our business. There's a gentleman called Al Levy, and they're really involved with it, service Titan right now, especially Ellen Warriors. But they came in and helped us create operation manuals for every position. So if you worked in service department, you had an operation manual, and it told you everything how to operate. Making sure down to like the uniform when you come in. Make sure your shirt's tucked in when you walk in that front door in the office, because you never know who's going to be standing there when you walk in that office, because it could be a customer, not just other employees. So don't come in, with, your shirt hanging out and looking like you just grabbed everything that you took off the night before that's been standing up in the corner of your bedroom.
Yeah, I know that guy well.
I had 23 chapters of operation manuals for positions. And when you came on board, if you came in and did an interview and so forth, I would go, show them part of it. There was a scale for, pay and bonuses and so forth. So everything was laid out. Training was all set out. We were certified within the state for training to get them their journeymans and internal training. They didn't have to go to night school 2 nights a week like most people needed to in Maryland. They would have to go to a college and get night school, which I'm like, and the reason why I brought it in-house is because I'm like, well, those guys aren't learning anything, because if they're going 2 nights a week, they have to be at the college by 6 p.m. Well, they came in to work at 6 a.m. and then had to leave the job at 4, and then they got to go to school at 6 and not get out till 10 and get home at 11, and then
it's a terrible quality of life.
And they're sleeping in classes. And yeah, so it was just like, I need this internally, and with all the online stuff, there was places that I made it happen, that they could go home and have dinner with their family and maybe play with their kids if they have kids, and then, go online for an hour and then get some rest. And then on the weekends, they could take as much time as they wanted and, get through it. So that worked really, really well.
And nowadays they got SkillCat. Have you seen SkillCat? So they got an entire accredited HVAC school on SkillCat that you could sit at your breakfast table and do, a couple chapters a morning if you wanted to. I think it's really cool that guys like SkillCat and a couple of these other places have brought learning to the younger crowd the way that they learn, because they don't learn like we learn. They're not sitting in school with books and, or sitting down at a kitchen table with a bunch of journals and manuals and reading it. They're scrolling through their phone, reading stuff. So for them to have access to that right through an app and just be able to get a whole entire HVAC school on an app is crazy to me. I love it. I think it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's fantastic, because again, like you just said, back in the day when we were learning, we didn't have that. We didn't have all that. We couldn't, go online and find something within 30 seconds that, some information you could gather, where we had to go digging in books and, and then it was challenging to even find the books that we needed to get.
So let me ask you this, like, we got I'd say the top 10 to 20% of HVAC guys that are online anyway that we see are highly interested in home performance, and a lot of them are adopting it as a business model now. We didn't, when you and I were in home performance, it was the other way around. Like, you had to drag people into it basically, but now there's a little bit of interest in it. What advice do you have for any of these guys that have pure HVAC shops now that are latching on home performance? Like, well, if you could write one piece of advice on the wall that's going to stay there forever, that they could look back at and be like, yeah, that helped us out, what would that be for these guys that are coming into the home performance world?
Well, I mean, again, it all comes down to training and just finding out what are the first steps that need to be done. I mean, as we know that you got to have a script and you got to be ready to answer the questions that the customers are going to be asking, because most homeowners never even heard of any of this and even know what it is. And so being prepared with the answers that customers are going to ask. And first they had to figure out what questions do they think that the customers are going to ask, kind of put themselves in the customer's role, and then do some role playing in the shop. I mean, we have weekly meetings with every department, and I know I've trained many companies, and I ask them, like, do you have weekly meetings? And no. They, they say monthly, and it's usually about a 20-minute huddle, in the morning. And so, but we had weekly meetings, and they would be for an hour and a half, and that hour and a half would just be going over, what's going right, what's going wrong, how can we make it better?
I had an HVAC guy that did do value training and weekly meetings and stuff. He said something that stuck with me. He said, either you train your guys daily or the guys who come in train them daily. You take the pick. He's like, you want them getting trained by the people that you hire off the street to come into your company and telling them how to run your company, then go ahead and not have daily trainings or, at least weekly meetings or whatever. He's like, because one way or the other, the guys are getting trained up. It's just a matter of who trains them.
Yep, exactly right. That's exactly right. And during those trainings, I mean, some of the trainings, we would be sitting around and going through, are we following all the methods that are within our, operations manual for that division? So if it's the install division, service division, sales division, even the CSRs, I mean, like financial, I mean, every department had their own manual and that they had to follow. And at times we would have to do role playing or take them down the training room and go through stuff. It all depended on what is it that, was going great this week that we need to fix for next week. And then we would just have to, and managers would have to make sure that they had that planned out when that training came up. Because if they're coming in every Tuesday at 7 a.m. until 8:30 and they got to train them, well, they got to make sure that they're blocking time out for that.
Did you ever have to deal with a manager that didn't buy in, like that thought they were like, I don't really believe in that shit or whatever, and like just refused to do what you ask them to do? I've seen that in a few of these places that we've trained, man. There's just always the one guy in management who's like, yeah, I'm not doing that bullshit.
Right, or say that they did it, and then of course all of a sudden the texts are coming to the person above them, which may be my general manager or myself, and saying, just throwing out a name, Jim said he was going to train me on this, and he said, don't worry about it, you'll be fine, just go do it. We don't need to go through the training. And it was like, nope, all right, got to cut bait and roll, because, when they come in and I would sit down and interview and go through their process. I mean, because even the general manager had a manual that they had to follow. Here's the process, and this is how we operate. And do you agree to operate this way? And making sure that these things are getting done, because you're the one's going to be held accountable. And if you're not being accountable and wanting to do this work, then that's just showing me you don't want to be here. So it's time to cut bait and move on.
So now you're doing some training with NCI. What are the courses that you've trained so far? What's your favorite one that you've taught so far out of all of them?
Yeah, those reports are great. I mean, especially being able to sit down with the customer, because they got the meter, and I was always a big fan of the meter, even before MeasureQuick came out. It's like, are we in the red, yellow, or green? And then of course it's got all the notations of, okay, what needs to be fixed, and so it makes it really simple for any tech to explain it to customers, and customers can understand it because it's written in plain English, and it's not too technical. And when it does get a little technical, then that's when the techs really need to help the homeowner understand what it's saying.
Man, it's set up the way MeasureQuick is set up, and TrueFlow Grid too, for that matter. Both of them are so user friendly and in tune with the way an HVAC guy thinks. I just love the way that they have those workflows set up. You can, it's they like MeasureQuick says a thing. We make a junior tech a senior tech, and I kind of really believe that because like there is some guidance in there if they follow it. A guy that might not know quite what he's doing yet might be able to figure out a little bit quicker using the MeasureQuick guided workflows and stuff. So I think that stuff's really cool. Remember when they had us with the TrueFlow Grid? You were going to remember this with Comfort Institute. They had the one with all the tubes. I don't even think it was called TrueFlow Grid. It was the flow plate or something like that. But it had all those tubes coming off of it, and Comfort Institute was using it as a way to teach total duct leakage. You had to do subtraction, be like measure the air coming out there, do a airflow with the flow hood, and then do some subtraction, and boom, you had a different the way to do duct leakage, pretty much. But that I compared that like to duct blaster, and the numbers are not what they were. They're different, but they're not that far off. I could probably live with the results either way, So it's always funny. There's more than one way to skin a cat out there, even though. Some stuff's standard and some stuff is not.
Yeah, and they just came out because they were working on it for a while, and it just got released. So now we got Comfort Max out there in MeasureQuick as well now. So
yep.
Yeah.
Is that it? So is that I don't remember what they were doing with that. Is that a paid? You have to be an NCI member to use that, or is that just if you play for the MeasureQuick quick subscription, you get access to that?
Yeah, as far as I know, that's the model that it is under. Like I said, it just came out, so.
Yeah.
And then Adam, who just came on board about a year ago, is the one that really headed all that and got that all set up with MeasureQuick.
Yeah, Adam's a cool guy. I'm gonna have him on at some point in time too. Cool, man. Well, give us some parting thoughts. What do you got to say to the HVAC world in general, and as a message of the best way to do business in 2025?
The first thing is operation manuals. I mean, I'm a big fan of having manuals. That way, everyone knows exactly what you want your tech to do, or employee, should I say, because if you don't have the manuals for anyone working for you of how you want things done, they're going to do it their way, because it's got to be written the way that you want your business to operate, and they need to follow that. And if they're not following it, then that's when you have to meet with them and find out where did we miss the guardrail on this? And how did we go off base and off track on this? Because if we don't get them the guiding light of, how you want things done, no one knows what to do. And then if someone starts casting blame, then it's like, well, if you start playing the blame game and something isn't written in there and it's based on the blame game, then it just becomes a debacle. And so that's why I'm a big fan of operation manuals, because it's just letting everybody know this is how we operate. And this is the way it needs to be done within this company, and every company is going to be different. And then holding them to, operating that way and being accountable for their actions.
I know John Tooley always taught there are no employee failures. There's only management failures, and training failures. Like your employees only fail because you let them fail. Either they shouldn't be employees anymore, or they should be doing their job the right way. There shouldn't be any in between if you're maintaining your training and your management is doing their job. So that's great advice. I love that.
Those were the biggest nuggets that really helped our company for sure. Because again, when people come back and say, well, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Well, if you don't have something for them to use as a guide, then how are they supposed to know? And if you're just telling them, then you can tell people stuff all day long. It doesn't mean they're going to remember it.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Like, we only have so much capacity in our brain to hold stuff. So, you have to have stuff written down somewhere, too. That's why, with the advent of digital technology and stuff like that, there shouldn't be any reason for guys not having the information that they need at the tip of their hands, because you can find it somehow. I mean, hell, ChatGPT, you can almost have it talk you right through a whole entire HVAC installation if you wanted to these days. So there's a way to do the stuff the right way. There's really no excuse for not being able to do that. It just has to come from the top, like you say, and be made readily available in some kind of training format for them.
Yes, and then again, their manager would do ride-alongs with them and just kind of check off and making sure that they're following the procedures, and that finding out what they're running up against, and hey, if this is the issue that you're having that you're not sure how to do, then that's when we need to get into the training room and make sure that they understand that. Yeah,
that's another big thing. Like, guys, we get these service managers that don't want to they never go in the field again once they become a service manager. They're the couch manager. Now, MeasureQuick is trying to help those guys out a little bit. They got that streaming thing that's pretty awesome, that you can sit back and you can say, hey, hook your gauges up, show me what you're seeing, and he can see it right on his screen. And you can have if you have 10 service techs that use MeasureQuick, you can have them all up at the same time. So, like, that, I think, is changing the game a little bit, but still, these guys got to get out there and see how these guys are doing business in the field, or else they failed as service managers.
Exactly right.
All right, well, I'm out of time, buddy. I love it. I thank you for talking to me.
Well, it's a pleasure, Jeremy. Thank you for having me on, and hopefully I get to see you in person soon.
Are you still sizing systems by rule of thumb, or selling jobs before knowing the load? We're happy to introduce the Permanent Load Reduction and Verified Performance Specialist Training, a 3-day immersive experience where HVAC pros get hands-on with real tools, real homes, and real diagnostics. Day 1. Learn how to find and fix the load with building science-backed methods. Day 2, get certified as a MeasureQuick user and airflow diagnostic specialist. Day 3, bring it all together with advanced permanent load reduction strategies and verified system performance on a real home. This isn't just theory, it's permanent load reduction and verified performance, the kind that sticks. It's time to stop guessing and start proving. Sign up today at www.hvac2homeperformance on our training page. Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast or HVAC 2 Home Performance and any of our services, be sure to check us out on our website at hvac2homeperformance.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at HVAC2HP and find us on Spotify and Apple. While you're at it, leave us a review. A big thanks to Santa Fe for supporting the show. The HVAC ADHD Vodcast is produced and edited by the team at Palm Tree Pod Co. Anthony Palmer is the executive producer. Bo Patton is our technical director. Nolan Gray is our audio engineer. And Caitlin Krings is the head of digital. The content for this episode is created by me. Hooday, go Bengals!